Skull Rock Podcast is brought to you by the generosity of the following companies. The Old Mill Press, publishing beautifully crafted books that illuminate our world. To learn more, visit theoldmillpress.com. And by listeners like you.
Hi, I'm designer Kevin Kidney, and you're listening to the Skull Rock Podcast.
Aye, mateys, remember this as the day you sailed with the Skull Rock Podcast. Who among you thinks he has what it takes to join the Skull Rock's ruddy crew? Then prepare to be put to the test and face the trials of a Skull Rock life. Proceed at your own risk and mark well me words, mateys. Dead men tell no tale.
Welcome to Skull Rock Podcast, a show about all things Disney and pop culture. Every week we take you behind the scenes of some of your favorite Disney films, theme park attractions, performances, books, and music, as well as what's streaming, what's in theaters, and what's going on in this universe of entertainment. I'm your host, Aljon Go, musician, longtime Marvel, Disney, Star Wars, and pop culturist, and you can email me, Aljon, A-L-J-O-N, at skullrockpodcast.com.
And I'm Dave Bossert, artist, filmmaker, author, and welcome to the Skull Rock Podcast. If you love Disney and pop culture, please subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. You can also like and follow us on Facebook, X, Blue Sky, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. You can also email me at dave@skullrockpodcast.com. Aljon, this is unbelievable. We are barreling into the holiday season. And I mean, the Christmas, Hanukkah, New Year, it's all going to be on us before we even know it.
I can't believe it. Where has this time gone, Dave? I don't know. Time is a big flatbread pizza, time warp, whatever you want to call it. But I'm happy to be here with you once again for another week. And good times ahead.
Absolutely. You know, we've got part 2 of our great interview with Imagineer and artist Eric Robison, and part 3 is going to drop next week. And then, by the way, after that, we're going to do our holiday show. Going to kind of wrap up the year. We're going to make recommendations on movies, TV shows, books, things that you might want to check out during the holiday season when you have some free time. And then we're gonna be gone for the holidays, Aljon.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a couple of vault shows to drop, and then we're gonna kick off the new year with a great series of interviews with animator Darlie Brewster.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to catching up with Darlie to see what she's been up to. And man, just the holidays in and of itself. I will say this: I'm happy. I think I'm done with my holiday shopping. Bezos has got a lot of my money. We got Amazon packages coming into the porch. So I'm happy to kind of avoid the rigmarole, if you will. Every week you remind people, Dave, to be safe out there and driving. There's nothing more kind of rattling for me than going shopping at the mall or the department store during the holidays, because I have so much anxiety. There's so many people and I don't want my car to get jacked up. I don't want to, do a bunch of other stuff. So it's just like, it's always been a source of anxiety. So at least I can thank Jeff Bezos for Amazon.
I'm with you. You know something? I think I can honestly say to you, I have not been in a mall or a department store for years. I mean, look, department store, I would say, once in a blue moon, I might go into, a local department store, but I haven't been in an actual mall. Like our local mall is a ghost town. The only time I go up there's a section on one side that's called the patios, and they've got, restaurants and the Apple store, and that's about it.
Wow,
I'll go and hit one of the restaurants, and then maybe once a year I go over to the Apple store. But I just don't go to shopping malls anymore. Most of what I do is online,
Yeah.
And by the way, not just with Amazon, with a ton of different companies. I just if I need something, I just go online. Shoes, pants, shirts, whatever it is.
Exactly right. I mean, the coolest thing is even Instagram shopping is great because you get to support I get to support like a lot of entrepreneurs that are out there and small businesses, Etsy shops and stuff like that. I think that's really neat. But anyway, enough about the holiday shopping stuff. I know
it's crazy. It's crazy.
It's really cool. We have a lot of stuff to talk about. We've got, the stuff we've been talking and watching this week, so we can talk about that. And of course, Eric's interview for week 2. Eric, let me just say this. Eric is such a great personality, Dave. And, I didn't make this a big public thing, but, Eric sent me a little something for my birthday, which was really cool.
That was sweet of him. And, he is just such a nice man. I'm telling you, unbelievable.
He's the best. So
I feel fortunate that we know him.
At 100%. And, and we feel like that about a lot of our guests. They're just the best people. They really are the best people.
They really are.
And so many great people and you worked with, and I'm so happy that these people come on the show and share their story. But thank you so much, Eric. You're the best. And they're going to be on a hallowed place on my wall of art. So I'm getting some frames for them, and I just can't wait to hang them.
That's awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Just so nice.
Right on. So I think we might even have some listener feedback this week. Is that right, Dave?
Yeah, well, yes. Let's do that.
Okay.
So first off, Lynn Barron reached out. He wants us to record a message for him.
Okay.
Because Lynn Barron is one of the hosts of the Sweet Spot podcast.
Yeah.
And it's been around for a while because January, they're going to be celebrating their 400th episode.
Wow. Hey, congratulations,
Is that
Lynn.
Unbelievable?
That's great. I remember meeting Lynn years ago at a D23 Expo, and Lynn and I have been in touch, and he oftentimes will email me or message me about equipment for his podcast like most people do. It's like, how can we get this going? But the Sweet Spot is just a great place and a great podcast. And a lot of you don't know, but he started out over there working as a cast member in the janitorial engineering section, right? So he would go around and have a lot of great stories and insights to share about his, life working there initially as being part of that cast of people that take care of the park. And it's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And the funny thing is, I actually did an interview on the Disneyland podcast.
Yeah.
You know that one, right?
Yes.
The DL podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I did an interview with them this past week. And one of the questions they asked me, if I could do any job at Disneyland, what would it be? Mm-hmm. And I had to think for a second. And I said, well, I'd like to be one of those guys that walks around in the white outfit, sweeping up, litter into the little bins that they carry.
Now, why is that, Dave?
Because I'm out in the crowds and I get to watch people and enjoy people enjoying the park.
Yeah.
Because I said one of the things that I used to love to do when I was working at Walt Disney Animation Studios, if we finished the film and it got released to the theaters, I like to go to the local theater and see it with the fresh audience.
Yeah.
And see how they react to it, And then even after I stopped doing the films and started doing special projects, I can remember vividly being at the premiere of World of Color at the California Adventure Park. And when the show was going, when they premiered the show, I was standing in the crowd and I was looking around to see how people were reacting to different parts of the show. And was it resonating with them? And that's and when you see people getting excited, it makes you feel good. It makes you feel like the work you did on that project was, all worth it.
This is true. I mean, you like getting that type of feedback from people, and they help fuel you, which is really cool. I feel the same way. I think that if I was to choose a role in the park, I would love to be a musician in the park. I love, just walking around with a guitar, playing over there in Frontierland, playing guitar and some tunes like that with the band and the upright and the banjo and all that. I mean, that is just the coolest thing. To get
and
that.
Again, because you're watching, you're feeding on the reaction from the guests. I mean, you must feel that when you're on stage doing a show and the crowd is cheering and screaming and singing along sometimes.
Yeah, it's addictive. You really get that shot of whatever it is, dopamine or whatever you get, the adrenaline, and it just makes you feel good. You have that immediate feedback from people. And I have to say, going back to Eric, I remember seeing Eric, and I just got this memory, but I remember him doing art, I think over at the Disneyana booth or something like that, doing some art in front of people, and it's great to see artists actually do their craft in front of other people because they get wowed. And it's like I could just sit and stare at people do live performance art, just making art, you know, because it's fascinating. But I'm sure it's exciting. He seems to me like he would love doing that kind of stuff in front of people. So
oh yeah, absolutely, he does that all the time. I've seen his videos. They're just fantastic.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so Lynn Barron, the Sweet Spot, they're celebrating their 400th episode, which is absolutely amazing. So congratulations to them.
Congratulations, Lynn. What a milestone.
Yeah. Now, I also got a text, and I'm not going to tell you who this is from. I want to keep it private, but I got choked up over this, and I really want people to hear this because it just shows you how little things can make the biggest difference in the world, you know? And so the text reads, "Life is funny, and things just seem to happen for a reason. It's cliche to say this, I know, but time and time again, it's proven true. My mom passed away 2 nights ago. I couldn't be there physically, but something wonderful happened on her last day of life. I had sent my brother the podcast link of my interview with you. He played it for her to hear. She listened to the whole thing, including my mention of her as my creative source, and she got to hear my voice. I feel that this was so special for her to hear that her son was thankful for her and that she made a difference in the world. And hearing this must have made her smile inside. Thank you, Dave. Without knowing it, you gave her a last gift before she left. I am grateful for you." I mean, unbelievable. I you know something, Aljon, I got choked up when I read this for the first time, you know? I shed a couple of tears, and I'm getting a little choked up right now because to me, you know, we do things in this world and you never realize sometimes how they will touch somebody profoundly, you know, and, you know, whether it's, you know, playing a song that means something to somebody, or, you know, working on a movie that goes out and resonates with the audience and really touches people, you know, or just our podcast, you know, of us, you know, spotlighting various creative people and letting them tell their stories and how that may inspire somebody, or in this case, put a smile on somebody's face who's leaving this world.
Yeah, Dave, 100%. It's hard not to get emotional about that kind of stuff because you just never know how what you do impacts people. Sometimes the little things impact people the most.
Yeah, so, they really do. It's something else. But I was so moved when I received that text, and I just feel like, wow, you know, I'm so glad that, you know, his mom got to hear him and got to hear him praise his mother for her, you know, contribution to his life and inspiration to his life.
It's great that we're able to share those stories, and our guests are able to share those stories with our audience, because that's how we keep people alive. That's how we keep this chronicle of great things. And it's great to go back and listen to them and hear those words and be inspired and take something from these stories, these wonderful stories. So
it's an oral history, Aljon. It's an oral history that will inspire people for years to come. I firmly believe that.
Well, that's great, and I appreciate you sharing that, and it means a lot. And you listening to us right now, you mean a lot to us. That's why we keep going and doing what we're doing, because we really have a love and a passion for all this, and we appreciate you coming on this journey with us. So thank you for that. Thanks, Dave.
Absolutely.
Well, I tell you what, if you have a email or a post or what have you, comment, please feel free to share them in our comment section over there on YouTube, Facebook. You can DM us, send us those emails, you know, like we are on all the social media sites now, including Blue Sky. You can check that out. You can also hit us up via email and leave us a voicemail message in the show notes of this podcast. Just click that link, and your smartphone can be a great device to send us that voicemail where we can play it back in a future episode. Now, Dave, it's time for our picks of the week. Dave, you've been busy catching up with some movies, haven't you?
I have been busy, Aljon.
Okay.
And, you know, I have to say, I did go see Moana 2.
Okay.
And I got to say, this is an absolutely stunning movie. Kudos to, everybody at Walt Disney Animation Studios. This is a beautiful, beautifully crafted film. I just think visually it's stunning, and people should see it on a big screen if they possibly can. But, it doesn't transcend the previous, the first film.
Hard for that one.
What's that?
It would be hard to do, actually.
Yeah, I think this is, from my standpoint, this sequel seems to fall short. It lacks, I think, an emotional art or emotional resonance that the first one had, especially between the relationship between Moana and Maui. It really resonates in the first movie, not so much here, and there's too many new characters that are scattered through this entire storyline, and it really makes it muddies the story. I think they lost focus personally. That's my feeling. And I don't think the songs live up to what Lin-Manuel Miranda did in the first one.
That was my question.
Yeah, the songs really don't do it for me. There wasn't any one particular song that felt like it was, they hit it out of the park with it. So I think, I hate to say it, I just feel like this was a sequel that was a money grab.
I can see that. And I think, wasn't this project developed? I think we covered this a while ago, but they cobbled together Moana 2 because A, they needed a big hit, and B, this was actually a TV project initially, I think. So here's the real backstory on this, right? Okay.
So this was being developed as a television, a Disney Plus show. Mm-hmm. Whether it was going to be a limited series or a continuous running series, whatever, but it was being developed for television. Back in, this past year, I think early this year or in the fall, I guess it was the fall when Iger announced the Moana 2 sequel. They had a film in the pipeline that was being developed for November of 24 for this year. And it was completely scrapped because it was awful. It was a disaster. They completely scrapped it, and they decided to take this Moana TV show and retool it into a sequel for a theatrical release. Right. And there was an awful lot of work they had to do over this past year to get this film to screen, because as late as May, June of this year, the third act was still in storyboards, right? So when I watched this film, knowing that information, I was amazed. I mean, they did a spectacular job on this film, right? Yeah. I mean, it looks absolutely beautiful and worthy of any theatrical release. And clearly, it's doing well with the audience. But I would argue that if you had a floating turd across the screen and it made $1 billion, you would see sequels to the floating turd going across the screen.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Guaranteed.
So anything I say about, the story doesn't have a heart, it doesn't matter because they did what they wanted here, and that was to grab a lot of money at the box office. And I have no doubt that Moana 2 will probably hit $1 billion, at the box office. But I still sit there and go, man, come on, work on the story. And by the way, this is a much better story than the previous films they've done.
Yeah.
Without question. But that's partially because it's a sequel to a good movie.
Right.
Moana was a good movie.
Yes.
But again, I just feel as though they lost focus on their story in my mind. And maybe that's because they had 3 directors. I don't know. I mean, maybe there's all kinds of reasons to say it. The other thing that I'm going to point out, and again, doesn't matter at all because they're raking in the dough at the box office, right? But again, I am not, I was not impressed with most of the animation. I thought it was okay. It was better than some of the animation that was in Wish, which was awful. But,
Right.
you know, one of the things that bugged me in this movie, and it was a distraction to me, was the hair on the characters. It was constantly moving.
Okay.
In some of the scenes, it looked like the hair was underwater,
Okay.
and I thought to myself, didn't anybody really study how hair, even if you're on a beach and there's a breeze and you have long hair, has anybody actually studied how hair behaves? Because this looked like it was like this mass that was floating in water on so many of the scenes. That's just my observation. Anyway, the point being is, my sense is, go see this movie on a big screen because it is absolutely stunning to look at, but just realize the story falls flat and it lacks a bit of a heart as far as I'm concerned. Okay?
All right. I like it, Dave.
So that's my review on that. Now, on the small screen, I did watch a new limited series that dropped called Black Doves, and I call it a limited series. It's so good, I hope that they actually do a season 2.
Okay.
Black Doves dropped in its entirety. It's 6 episodes. It's on Netflix. It stars Keira Knightley, Sarah Lancashire, Ben Whishaw Tracy Ullman is in this, Andrew Buchanan. This is an absolutely fantastic limited series. Helen, which is the character played by Keira Knightley, Helen embarks on a passionate affair with a man who has no idea what her secret identity is. Caught in the crosshairs when her lover falls victim to the dangerous London underworld, Helen's employers call in Sam to protect her. Now, Ben Whishaw plays Sam, and you may remember him as Q in the Bond movies with Daniel Craig, right?
Yes.
He's a great British actor. I think he's absolutely fantastic. This series has a comic edge to it. There's some funny moments. It's also violent. It's also, espionage, thriller, adventure. There's a big twist towards the end. It's absolutely fantastic. Sarah Lancashire, you may remember, I've talked about her from a show called Happy Valley, where she plays a police officer, out in the country of England and, at the countryside of England. She's absolutely fabulous. She plays sort of the boss for the Black Doves, which is this secret group, and absolutely highly recommend Black Doves on Netflix. I caught up on Shrinking. A grieving therapist starts to break the rules by telling his clients exactly what he thinks. Jimmy has lost his wife and wants to try a new approach to his loss, but it's unclear how this will help others. This stars Jason Segel and Harrison Ford, Christina Miller, Jessica Williams, Michael Urie. It's a great cast. It's funny. It's very, very great writing. It's wonderfully written, very funny. I can't recommend it enough. Over at Apple TV, it's got 94% on Rotten Tomatoes. 8 out of 10. By the way, Black Doves has 98% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow.
How's that?
That's amazing.
Okay. And I should probably mention Moana. Okay, I want to mention that Moana 2 has 62% on Rotten Tomatoes.
That's not bad.
No, it's not terrible, but still, it says what it says. I've continued watching season 2 of Bad Sisters, which is also on Apple TV. The Garvey sisters are bound together by the premature deaths of their parents and the promises they made to always protect one another. This is, again, very funny show. 91% on Rotten Tomatoes. I would highly recommend you check that out. It's very funny. And then I watched the documentary Beatles 64 on Disney Plus.
All right.
And it captures the band's electrifying 1964 U.S. debut amid fan frenzy with rare behind-the-scenes footage. It chronicles their unprecedented rise to global stardom after performing on The Ed Sullivan Show to over 73 million viewers.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, so Martin Scorsese is involved with this. It's directed by David Tedeschi. I can't say it. Ted DeSeschi.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
And there's interviews with Ringo Starr. There's interviews. There's current interviews, new interviews with Ringo Starr and Paul McCartney. There's archival interviews with George Harrison and John Lennon. And they actually talked to some of the young fans that were there in 64, who are now, writers or, known people in the world. So they're on camera conveying, their thoughts and whatnot. Look, it's the Beatles. I will watch anything. I'll watch a Beatles record playing on a record player because I love the Beatles, as you know. And so this is just one more chronicle of their journey. And, they are the greatest rock and roll band of all time. And there is just some fantastic commentary in this from a variety of people. And I thoroughly enjoyed watching all of this footage. And again, some of it I hadn't seen before. So, if you've watched Get Back and, some of these other Beatles documentaries lately on Disney Plus, watch Beatles 64. It's terrific. Okay.
I can't wait till they cover the Stones, Dave.
I hope they do.
Yeah.
Do you know if they have plans for it?
I don't know, but they need to. I mean, I feel like if you have
quite frankly, I mean, look, if Mick Jagger's listening to us on our podcast,
yeah, baby,
they need to start focusing on their legacy and get a bunch of documentaries done. They have so much material. My God, it's not just concert films. It's, it's all the behind the scenes stuff.
Come on, Ron Howard. Make it happen, Ron Howard. You can do it. You make great documentaries, Ron. Come on now.
And there's a hunger for these things. You know
100%.
that.
If the Beatles do something, the Stones have got to come up and do something great. So come on now.
All right,
That's
Aljon,
awesome.
what have you been watching?
Well, speaking of great music, I've checked out the brand new audiobook. As you know, I'm a big audio book guy with Audible. And Brothers is a new release by Alex Van Halen. The drummer for Van Halen, of course, older brother to Edward Van Halen, who passed away several years ago. And this is read in his voice. He reads it. He narrates it. It's a very easy read. It's maybe about 8 hours long, but this is a never before heard piece of music is in here. Of course, the Van Halen brothers' story from their life out there in Holland, immigrating to the United States, for a better future, their love and find of music, of course, their early background of alcoholism and all the demons that they got brought into, but how the brothers stayed strong and took care of each other till the end. However, this story ends with the David Lee Roth era. It doesn't go into the Sammy Hagar era. I can only imagine that there's going to be another book that Alex puts out, but he oftentimes will quote his brother and talk about some things that he and his brother do because they were so incredibly tight, thick as thieves, if you will, the brothers, Alex and Eddie Van Halen. So I think this is a must for any Van Halen fan, and definitely if you're a fan of the music, and just an amazing story said in his voice. I think you're going to really appreciate it. Some of the Dutch comes out in his voice, which is really nice as well. Alex being who he is. So it's great. I've always thought that Alex Van Halen was incredible as a musician and had won Modern Drummers Award for Drummer of the Year for many, 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 many years, and rightfully so. He's a talent in his own right. But to hear some of the stories of Eddie is also very good as well, because it gives you insight into who he was, because he's no longer here to tell his story. So I think it's very good. So check out Brothers, Alex Van Halen. Also, Dave, I checked out Skeleton Crew, which is the brand new series on Disney Plus from Star Wars. And this show redid the boilerplate. 4 kids make a mysterious discovery on their way on their home planet that leads them to get lost in a strange and dangerous galaxy. This stars Jude Law, also Dominic Burgess is in there, and a great cast of young actors, practically brand new to being directed by John Watts, writers Christopher Ford. I mean, this is a great show, Dave. I mean,
I've got it on my list, Aljon. I want to catch up on this one because of Jude Law, and it looks good.
You know what I love about it? Does look amazing. It looks really good. Of course, they use the volume, which is that the projection cyclorama high definition backdrop that they use to do the Mandalorian and Acolyte and all the different Star Wars film TV series. But I can tell you that there's a lot of care put into this show, and it has a lot to do with, you know, coming of age stories. It's a coming of age story for this group of 4 kids, youngsters, who happen to fall into a pit basically, and their adventure starts. And one thing I love about Star Wars or Marvel films is that they'll take a genre and kind of put their twist on it. So it's a pirate swashbuckling teen coming of age Goonies type of adventure story set in the Star Wars universe. And by God, do they pull it off. 2 episodes in, I am totally hooked. I can't wait to see what happens next into this world of Star Wars and pirates, space pirates, the scallywags, the scum and villainy of the Galactic Republic are all on display here. The different characters. It's like seeing the cantina from Star Wars and all those different creatures. That's what I love about Star Wars. It's beautifully done.
You had me at pirates. That's all I'm going to say.
Hey, Dave, you're going to love it. You're going to love it. And Jude Law, oh man, it's a good reveal. You know, it's the season's greetings time here at the house. You know, during Halloween season, I oftentimes watch a bunch of horror movies, and now it's my wife's turn to turn the tables, and I am watching a bunch of Christmas movies. So it's time now to celebrate the new queen of Christmas, and her name is Lacey Chabert, and she does a bunch of Hallmark films. She of course, best known for Party of Five, but she's in this film called Haul Out the Holly. It's a TV movie. It's a feel-good movie. It is Emily arrives home hoping to visit her parents, only to find that they're going on a trip out of town. And while she stays at her house for the holidays, her HOA is determined to get Emily involved in the neighborhood Christmas festivities. Of course, it starts out as a girl and a boy. In the early days, they're youngsters. They grow apart and they come back together and they see how much they've grown. And then later they fall in love. That's usually how those things work. Boy meets girl, boy loses girl loses boy, and then they reunite where the mistletoe is. So, I mean, that's kind of what it is. It's paint by numbers. It's fun. But once again,
sounds like a Hallmark movie.
It is a Hallmark movie, Dave. It is.
Okay.
You know, but the one thing I will say is, you know, Hallmark has got the corner pretty much on all this stuff, but Netflix is too. And Netflix recently signed a deal with Lindsay Lohan to do a bunch of kind of holiday movies. And so she's doing a movie that came out this year called Our Little Secret, streaming exclusively on Netflix. And the boiler reads, 2 resentful exes must awkwardly spend Christmas together after they learn that their new partners are siblings. It's really strange. And when I say that it's a Hallmark movie on steroids or on THC, that's exactly what it is. It's like got an edge to it. So there's a little bit of that kind of Jack Black humor and stuff that I talked about earlier, of stuff that happens that you couldn't get away with on Hallmark. But Lindsay Lohan is in this, Ian Harding, Kristen Chenoweth is in it. Very fun. Kristen is hilarious, as you would think. She swallows up every scene, does a great job. Tim Meadows is also in it. So there's a few different cast members that people will know, people will appreciate, and will find completely funny. And it's a step up from a Hallmark movie, but it's not like Bad Santa or, you know, the Bad Mom series of movies with Mila Kunis. It doesn't go that far in terms of the humor, but it is funny. It has an edge to it. And it wasn't a waste of time. Lindsay Lohan, I think, is a great reason to watch because she is still very charming. I never lost it on Lindsay. I think she's still very great. And I hope that she's kind of gone past all of her, you know, demons and everything, because she's just fun to watch.
She seems like she's kind of making a comeback. Is that what's going on?
I think so. And this is great for her. But the chemistry between her and Ian Harding is great. And Kristen Chenoweth and Tim Meadows are a great reason to watch. So for that, I will give it a thumbs up. So Our Little Secret is on Netflix. That's all we've been watching this week, gang. It's the holiday season, so expect more from us over the next few weeks. And maybe I'll get to see Moana too. Let us know what you've been watching, and we'll check it out in a future episode.
Skull Rock Podcast. This week in Disney and pop culture.
All right, Dave, as you alluded to, Moana 2 sales to the box office record, $50 million over the week for second week. $600 million globally, Dave. I think they can say Disney mission accomplished in terms of that money grab that you spoke of earlier.
No, absolutely, without question. Again, look, folks, it is a beautiful movie. It's beautifully done. By the way, Spellbound, which came out the Friday before Thanksgiving, seems to have just come and gone. There's no mention of it in the trades. And when you compare those two movies, there's no comparison. I mean, Moana 2 is a lush, beautiful film, off the charts. It makes Spellbound look like a direct-to-DVD film. You know what I mean? And again, it falls flat story-wise, I think, Well, so, but that's their problem right now, is trying to, tell a great story that has a heart. They seem to be falling short.
Well, Well, at least this is an opening for Disney to get back on track. Gives them an opportunity to say, we're back. We can at least wear this as a badge and say, we're back, baby, and maybe put more attention to those different details. I mean, that's a thing. You have Dave here who was an impeccable artist and filmmaker himself. So of course he's going to be critical, but all that to say you can do better. And so good on Walt Disney, animation, go ahead and do better.
And something, look, it's a blowout success. I mean, that's what they needed. The last 2 years were an absolute embarrassment.
Yeah, makes up for it for sure.
Good on them. They're making money. They have a hit on their hands.
Universal's Wicked also is a powerhouse. It continues to earn another $32.7 million. I heard great things about this film as well.
It's a beautiful movie. I mean, it hits on all cylinders. Aljon.
Gladiator 2 rounding out the top 3, so good on them. And speaking of Disney, Snow White, Rachel Zegler regains kingdom from Gal Gadot's evil queen in an official trailer. Dave, I've seen this trailer for this Disney's Snow White, and it looks great. I am just very sad that it's tainted by the controversies that Rachel Zegler continues to do, putting her foot in her mouth with every media. And by
the way, do you think what she's done is any worse than what Gina Grano did on Mandalorian? I don't think so.
I don't think so. But no. I mean, I just feel like just stop already. Just stop putting your foot in mouth. And I wish that actors would just stop it with all this rhetoric and just get down to what they need to do is entertain people and have them escape reality for 2 hours of their lives.
But you know what? She's a young actress and she's an idiot. She shouldn't be getting, putting out the stuff that she's been putting out. It's hurting her career as far as I'm concerned. And nobody wants to hear her commentary on the election.
No one wants to hear. I don't want to hear anyone's commentary on anything.
Exactly.
But and I will say this: if I were to choose who's the fairest of them all between Rachel and Gal Gadot, Gal Gadot, I'm your number one fan. So don't worry about that. But I am still curious to see how this film's going to do, because once again, I'm a big fan of the source material, and please let the source material stay true to it, because that's the last thing I need is to.
All I'll say is I watched this trailer. There was aspects of it I liked. I didn't like the dwarf animation. I don't think it's up to the standard it needs to be. That's my opinion.
Maybe they'll still fix it, Dave.
Maybe
they can still fix it, because this was a troubled production from the very beginning.
It could be Disney's Ishtar.
It could be. It could be. Why did they solely put it out to pasture? It'll be okay. But better left unsaid. Dorothy's ruby slippers sell for staggering $28 million at the auction, Dave. My gosh, probably one of the biggest pieces of movie memorabilia known to man that I can see. I think I've seen, documentaries and different things about this, but this is, of course, based on the popularity of Wicked. As we mentioned earlier, the iconic footwear from the 1939 Wizard of Oz surpassed expectations, making the most expensive item of entertainment memorabilia ever sold. Dave, is there anything more iconic than the ruby red slippers?
No, I don't think so. And I think that, this was the perfect time to sell it with Wicked out in the theaters, and it's amazing. Just think of it in context here. The highest selling piece of movie memorabilia that's sold was prior to this was Marilyn Monroe's white halter top that was part of the Debbie Reynolds collection. It sold for $5.2 million. right? So the ruby slippers, $28 million. I hope whoever purchased this, because they're anonymous right now, but whoever purchased this, I hope they actually put it on display for fans to see. I hope that they loan it to the Motion Picture Academy Museum or something to put it on display. And there are a few people out there who have very large Wizard of Oz collections, so I hope somebody mounts a wonderful exhibition that can travel to different museums around the country, or around the world for that matter.
You would hope it's a piece of cinematic history and pop culture history.
Yeah,
and it should be protected.
Share it with the fans.
Obituary roll call.
This week, Dave, we have another wonderful actor, Wayne Northrup. Days of Our Lives and Dynasty actor, dies at the age of 77. He's a well-known face of soap operas in the 80s and 90s. He helped appear on Port Charles, L.A. Law, Hotel, and Cold Case, a lot of shows that I've seen over the years, and you'll know his face. Dave.
Absolutely.
But he passed away Friday at Motion Picture and TV Country House Hospital in Woodland Hills, and he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's 6 years ago. Man, oh man.
Yeah, terrible. But, again, if you saw his face, you'd go, I recognize him because he's been in so much stuff in the 80s and 90s.
%. Dave, I think that might be all I've gotten this week. Is that, did I miss anything?
I think so. I think that's good,
Okay. Well, we're
going into the holidays. We don't want to, belabor the obituary roll call.
Well, we can't control that. That's for sure. But one thing we can't control is right now getting our guests through the door. Let's go ahead and welcome back Eric Robison for week 2 of a special interview that he has with us. So sit back and enjoy Eric right here on Skull Rock Podcast.
And let's do it.
Skull Rock Podcast. Interview time.
Well, Aljon, we are back again for week 3 with artist extraordinaire, Imagineer Eric Robson. And Eric, last week we ended because you told a very emotional story. It was a painting you had done in the main hallway at Imagineering at the 1401 building in Glendale. And it was sort of a tribute to Herbie Ryman and really just a gallery where all of the Imagineers put up some personal work, literally painted on the wall. And I thought that was a good segue from that story because as you were painting and going wild because you did a Disneyland castle, unknown to you because you were standing there doing this painting and you're very energetic when you're painting, everybody behind you applauded when you finished. There was a group of people watching you.
Yeah, it was a super touching moment. And like I think I told you last session, that moment changed my life and it changed my vocation because I became a painter, a renderer, a Disney artist rather than just an Imagineer. And that launched me into kind of, I guess, what I am today, which is a Disney artist, generally speaking. So, yeah, that was a cool moment, and I'll never forget it. I mean, it was the Ryman thing that was kind of in my spirit, I guess. God bless this guy.
Yeah, which is really cool. And I'm just like, I want to ask you, how did you really transition from what you were doing as an Imagineer into really being sort of this Disney fine art guy, this fine art artist that is, very successful?
Yeah, it was a very interesting road to that from that painting on the hallway. So after that painting, several teams inside Imagineering asked me to do paintings of their attractions. So I immediately got on Disney MGM Studio Tower of Terror, painted that for their publicity shot, which went into the Orlando Sentinel and basically sold the Disney decade to the world amongst other renderings. And then I did some Magic Kingdom stuff, Port Long Beach, Westcott, Epcot, Test Track, etc. So those are just a skim through some of those other projects. But at my lunch hours, I'm just in love with doing art, Dave. I just love art. And so one day I was doing I think it was a birthday card or something for somebody. It was a Mickey Mouse, or it was a Bambi, a Dumbo, a Goofy. And I was just doing some sketching. And I'm not an animator. I wish I had been, but I love you guys, but I never was one. but I love Disney characters, so I wanted to do my interpretations of these characters. And what I did was take my knowledge of industrial design rendering technique and I applied it to Disney characters because nobody had really done that before. And that's the only way I knew how to render. So I wasn't painting them, I wasn't illustrating them, I was rendering them. So for instance, I would create a Dumbo or a Bambi with Prismacolor and chalk on CanSon paper with markers and gouache highlights like you would design a car. And the result was something that people were like, what the hell is this? This is awesome, Eric. They come into my office after lunch and go, whoa, you did another one. You did another one. And I had several Imagineer friends go, Eric, this should be a merchandise line. This should be, you should go to consumer products and try to pitch it. I mean, this should be on clothing and T-shirts. And I was like, okay, well, that's a good idea. Long story short, I did about 7 to 10 of these things. And I drove over to the studios, made an appointment with the art department over there, tried to get Eisner's attention, which is impossible, but had an appointment with the art director over there. I won't tell you his name because he really liked it a lot, but he didn't want me to be the one he wanted to do it. Kind of, I don't know how to describe this, kind of jealous. Like he was going to take my idea and do it himself. And I was like, wow, how weird. This guy is like, he wants to steal this, this new idea, a new way to look at the characters. I got the hell out of there. He said no anyway, but I always looked over my shoulder after that day because I felt like he was going to try to do it, behind my back, right? So then I went.
And by the way, Eric, if he did, it wouldn't have been as good.
Well, thank you very much for saying that. But who knows, right?
No, it just wouldn't have been because when an artist creates a style, a look, it's theirs. It's like your signature. It's like a fingerprint. You know what I mean? You can't just steal it. You can try and be inspired by it. You can try and copy it, but it's never going to have the life that the original has.
I mean, you talk about Eddie Van Halen. Everybody tries to copy him, but nobody copies him. So maybe you're right on that. Not that I'm Eddie Van Halen, but I know what you mean.
I think Aljon can relate to that comment.
I have no idea.
No, but you know Eddie Van Halen plays a great guitar.
Well, it's once again, artists have certain signature things that they have in their toolkit, that makes them unique, makes them super special. Same goes for musicians or songwriters or whoever else. They have their stamp. You go through, Eric, your website, and the different things that you've done over the years. And there's certainly a style. It's very vibrant. There's a lot of different ways you play with color and shapes, which, is certainly yours. And I think it's great as a fine artist and as a industrial artist and Imagineer. I mean, the thing I love about your art is I love starships and the art of books. When I was growing up, I loved getting the art of Star Wars and delving into those books where you have, all kinds of great stuff like Eric Probert, who worked on so much stuff for Lucasfilm and Star Trek. I think he designed the Back to the Future DeLorean and things like that. Just the way he adds the lines and the industrial looks of everything, and everything had a really nice purpose to it. And he could describe to you every little greebly on a vehicle or a starship. And you do the same thing. Every little thing that you do from your design, great sweeping lines, amazing detail as an engineer would. Of course, the engineer print signature and all your little notes and the different things that you do remind me of my father, because he used to be a engineer for NASA and Boeing. So you can see
every little thing you do is magic,
thing.
magic,
Yes.
magic.
Absolutely.
I think that's a line from a song from the Police.
That's right. But anyway. Yes.
But I just love to do it. I mean, my first love was science fiction. My first science fiction film was Silent Running with Bruce Dern. It was the spaceship was 3 domes just floating through space. I came home that night and I sketched it in my 8th grade notebook. And I was like, God, I want to, whatever that is, I want to do that kind of stuff. But yeah, I love science fiction. So I kind of, my art, before I met Herbie, my art was all very technical, very robots and industrial design, basically. But Herbie loosened me up a lot, and my color sense changed as I matured, and my emotions changed a lot too, because I had a lot of tragedies in my life. My brother died young, my daughter died. There's a lot of things that happen. And those emotions, I think they went into the artwork because suddenly almost there was like, I don't care anymore feeling. And when you let go like that in art, you really loosen up. If I used to teach my students, apathy is actually a good thing in art, because if you care too much, you tighten up. If you don't care that much and you're going to throw it away anyway, you loosen it up and you just scribble over it. And by the way, it may turn out better than you ever thought. So I went through a roller coaster of different things that kind of all went into the pigment. And so I'm kind of happy those horrible things happened, but because it changed my art, and I started doing Goofy, Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck like that. And people were going crazy. I was scratching through it with my fingernails, and I was throwing the paint in different ways. And that energy, as Bob Weiss likes to call my artwork, he said it's just energy.
Well, Eric, you saw what I posted. When you sent me that box set of your 100 Mickey paintings, I put a picture of myself holding that box up on my Facebook page. And I said, I love, in caps, his painting style, which just radiates with so much vibrant energy and life. Every brushstroke seems to pulse with a spirit that draws you in and leaves a lasting impression. And that really is how I feel about your artwork. I really, find it so wonderful to look at your paintings. And the more wild they are, the more loose they are, the more energy they have.
Yeah, thank you. And I never really thought, intellectualized what I was doing, because I was literally just painting feelings all the time. And I never do comps before I do a painting. A comp is a comprehensive for all the non-artists out there. It means a practice version of something. And I just go straight onto the canvas. I squirt the paint straight from the tube on the canvas and just start digging in like it's, potatoes and gravy. But I don't have the patience for that, or if I just want to be spontaneous, so I don't even think what I'm going to do. I just completely, it's feelings, emotions. And you kind of hope for the happy accident in art. And if you plan too much, it looks planned, it looks stiff and sterile, and that's just not my style. So that's what I started doing. And so guess what? So I go to consumer products, they say no. I go down to Disneyland, they say no. I went to every division of Disney and they said no with these interpretive pieces I did. So I had a great idea one day. Listen to this. This is stupid and crazy at the same time. So I said to myself, you know what? I know Marty likes my paintings. He complimented me a couple times. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of these 7 pieces and I'm going to sneak down to his office after hours and I'll put it in his office. When he gets there in the morning, he's going to have this great surprise. He's going to love it. Well, I called up his secretary at 5 o'clock and I said, can I get into Marty's office and put my paintings in there? Because I want to surprise him in the morning. I think he'd like these. So she says, okay, Eric, these are beautiful. Let's do it. And so I put one in his chair, one on his desk, and a bunch fanned out throughout the room against the wall, et cetera. And Marty's office was already a fantastic garden of imagination. Just every notes from Salvador Dali.
He was a pack rat. He had stuff stacked everywhere.
He did. And I just I put my stuff on top of all that. So it's like a garage sale, But okay, so I do it. I sneak out, I go home, and I go to bed thinking, wow, tomorrow morning he's going to be so thrilled when he opens his office. Sees all the color and the splatter and the emotional Disney interpretations. I get to my job the next morning and my phone, back in the days, you had a phone that had a little red light on it. That means you had a message. It was blinking. I pick it up and the secretary of Marty says, get down here right away. He's pissed and you got to get your stuff out of his office right now. And I just went, God damn it, Eric, you did it again. So I was shaking. I remember shaking. I was very nervous and thought I was going to lose my job. And I thought, wow, how do you piss this guy off all the time? And then he still loves you after, right? I go down there with my tail between my legs. I quietly enter his office. He's at his desk with his eyes down, writing something. All my stuff is stacked against the wall. Like, come and get it. Get out of my office kind of look, right? And the secretary looks at me like, you're dust, man. I go in there, tiptoe in, you guys, and I grab the stack of paintings and I'm tiptoeing out before he lifts his eyes up. And then he says, Eric, don't ever do that again. Please. I don't know why you did that. I don't know what compels you to do things like this, but that work is gorgeous. And what the hell is it? So he went from making me feel like to like, you're a master. What is this stuff and what should we do with it? I couldn't believe it.
That's awesome.
I was like, I don't know if I should cry right now or run out of the room or like apologize. I don't know what to do. And I said, man, boss, I'm so sorry I did it that way, but I wanted to get your attention. He goes, oh, you got my attention. You just did it the wrong way. He says, but forget about all that right now. These are gorgeous pieces. What are they? Why did you do them? And what do you want to do with them? And I was shocked. And that's the last time I made him mad at me, but it's also the last. After that, we were best friends forever. And he basically became my agent and he put my stuff everywhere. He called up Peggy Ferris, Van Romans, he called the Disney Gallery. So right in front of me, he calls up Peggy Ferris and he says, this is Marty. I want to put Eric's work in the gallery. Is it possible? How do we do it? And Peggy called me up and said, Eric, give me all your originals. We'll make prints of them. We're going to write a bio on you. And we'll have you down at the gallery for a signing. I went, what the f***? You kidding me? And I mean, Herbie was in the gallery. John Henstuff was in the gallery. You know, these were.
So you're saying the gallery at Disneyland, the one that's above Pirate or was above Pirates?
Disneyland Gallery, above Pirates of the Caribbean.
Is that still there?
No, they moved it to Main Street.
Right. That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah. Which is sad because it was absolutely a quaint, cute, gorgeous little upstairs gallery. It was,
and that space was originally an apartment for Walt, you know, that he was going to use and unfortunately passed away just as Pirates was finishing.
Yeah. And so that was the place. So anyway, 2.5, 3 weeks later, that fast, Peggy says, Eric, you have a signing this Saturday morning at the Disneyland Gallery. You're going to be signing there all day because we made 3,000 prints of your Goofy. The first one they chose to test on was a Goofy. It was actually very pastel looking. Well, looking back on it, surprised they picked that one, but it was nice. And I said, hey, where do I go? And they said, you show up at the front gate. We'll walk you to the gallery and blah, blah, blah. And so I put a suit and tie on and showed up there. And you guys, I'm walking from the hub through Adventureland to New Orleans Square to get to the gallery. And there's a gigantic line, and I'm assuming it's for the riverboat cruise, the Jungle Cruise. And so I'm like, oh, we got to walk around this line. I'm sweating. I'm in a suit. I'm like, this Southern California. And the line keeps going. It keeps going past the boat ride, past the treehouse, and it goes up the stairs to the gallery. And I go, what the hell is this line for? Who else is here, And the guy goes, it's for you.
Followed by a smack on the forehead.
How did anybody see the image yet? And they said, Disney PR. They launched the Disney Imagineer is going to be here signing a Goofy print, and everybody went crazy, and they showed up, and it's like, there's 1 million people here, man.
That's awesome.
I just couldn't believe it. What happened to my life, from sitting in the office doodling these? I'm walking up the stairs, all the people are staring at me like, there he is, kind of thing, like I'm a celebrity. Couldn't believe it. Still can't believe it. Anyway.
Yeah, go ahead.
Walk in the door of the gallery, all these people in white gloves waiting for me. The prints are all stacked nicely. The people are, he's here kind of stuff. And man, I was like bright red. I had no idea how to handle, this sudden whatever it was.
Was that your first art signing?
Yeah. So they said, okay, well, sit over here. You're going to be signing these all day. And the people come through and you shake hands, you talk a little, and wow, man, that was a long, long day, but it was a beautiful day. And that was my very first signing. And after that, you guys, I became like the Disneyland Gallery guy. I'm just sold out.
Really?
Yeah, sold out.
Now, let me ask you something. Did you actually get paid for your work, or was this being done as an employee of the company, or is it a separate thing?
Beautiful part about Disney. For me, and I've heard a lot of rumors about Disney, they don't pay well, they're not fair, they don't do this, they don't just sign work, whatever. My experience was the total opposite. I signed all my work at Imagineering from the get-go. I got paid right away. I got a percentage of these prints. I got a check for doing it. I always got paid by the gallery as a separate from Imagineering's paycheck.
Awesome.
So I was simultaneously working at Imagineering and doing gallery signings for about 2 whole years, doing both of those at the same time. So I was a sideshow, you know? And my popularity got bigger and bigger and bigger. And after that, every time there was a new movie out, which was Beauty and the Beast, Lion King, Hunchback, Pocahontas, et cetera, that whole all the good movies, all those great movies, I was the guy they called to do like the paintings of the main characters and the cast for the Disney Gallery. And the prints went from prints to beautiful lithographs. The quality went up, everything went up. And that was taking over my job, kind of. I mean, I was working so hard for the gallery and making pretty good money and getting tons of popularity and exposure that Imagineering started being kind of like emotionally, I guess, psychologically, that became the second job. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So things turned upside down a little bit in that equation. It felt pretty good. I mean, your ego is really starting to feel good now, and you're not used to that. So you always go where what feels the best, right? So Marty was so supportive. He wrote me a note after every gallery show. Eric, you're incredible. Keep up the good work, kid. I love this, blah, blah, blah. I got tons of letters from him, and I got them all. I have a whole collection of all these letters from fans and him. And so I became the Disney Gallery guy, basically. And that took over. I realized I could make a living doing that, you know. And so Imagineering, I did leave there in 1995 on April Fool's Day. And I did that on purpose because nobody believed I was leaving. And it was kind of this weird poetic way of leaving without having to say gooey goodbyes and everything. So nobody believed it. So I just left, right? And so right off the bat, I got a call from the video game companies like Activision and what's the name of them? They did Boogerman.
Blizzard, Activism.
Got it written here. 1 second. I had to write it because something happened to me.
Nintendo?
Sega. Sega Genesis. So right off the bat, I started designing video games. I was still doing the gallery work, but designing video game backgrounds for Boogerman, for the 7-Up Spot. I worked on Jumanji. I had an agent that got me a Jumanji, Jumanji #1, with
Robin Williams. Was that Robin Williams?
Yeah, Robin Williams. And I was hired to be a storyboard artist. And I'm not a storyboard artist, but I said yes anyway because, shoot, it's a Robin Williams film, you know? And so I'm working with the director of that was the guy that directed Rocket Man. He was a Star Wars industrial designer. What's his name, you guys?
Joe Johnston.
Joe Johnston. Joe Johnston's my boss. And so he starts drawing over my stuff. I was like, wow, look at this. You should draw your own storyboards, Joe. Anyway, I failed at that. I didn't do well. And I was only there for, I think, 2 weeks. And then they nicely, listen to this, though. My last day there, I went into his office and they were going to let me go. And the production designer, I forgot his name, he answers the phone. And he's got a sad look on his face. And he goes, oh, my God, you're kidding me. He hangs up the phone and he goes, Kurt Cobain just died. And I said, how do you know? He says, we're the first people to know. My son is his babysitter.
Wow.
They have another name for babysitter. I forgot the name.
Au pair.
Au pair. My son is Kurt's au pair. And he just passed away. I said, wow. So that was just such a weird moment. So that was my last day on Jumanji.
So Kurt Cobain passed away, and so did your job on that movie.
That's why I remember it so well, because the guy inked the date for me by saying that, right? So anyway, I continued with the Disney Gallery. I consulted for Universal Studios. I also went back to Imagineering to work on Tokyo Disneyland Tomorrowland. and a lot of other consultations for BRC and other companies like that.
But you were doing that as a consultant, sort of freelancing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But all the while, the gallery was really feeding my family. So I was just becoming more and more well known as a Disney artist, because those movies were all hits, you guys. And every time,
oh no, I worked on most of those movies. That was the great Disney Renaissance. I mean, you're talking about Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Lion King, Pocahontas, Hercules, Hunchback. You know, the list goes on.
Yeah, and so for 10 years straight, every time one of those amazing films came out, I got to paint all the lead characters, the cast and crew, the side characters. I mean, and they sold out every single time. I was doing really well. The gallery was doing well. Disney was doing well. Super fun section of my career. I just loved it so much. And then the films started doing a little less in their popularity. And so I still continued to be that gallery guy for those. But like, it started to peter out a little bit.
Like, you know, when you start getting into after 2000.
After Hunchback, it started going.
Yeah, Atlantis, The Lost Empire, Treasure Planet.
They never called me to do that. Hunchback, they didn't call me for any of that stuff. They called me to do other tribute paintings for Mark Davis, for Herbie, for John Hench. So I was doing tribute paintings of Disneyland Park now. So I went from the character film stuff. Then they said, Eric, can you paint the Haunted Mansion for the 30th anniversary? Okay. Can you paint the Pirates for the 30th anniversary? Can you paint the Matterhorn? And so I started painting the iconic theme park rides and attractions. And that was the funnest thing in the world, because if you look back at my first episode with you, I wanted to be an architect, right? Now I was painting architecture. It felt really good. I was very happy to do that. And so I think I must have painted half the park. And Michael Jackson bought one of mine, and then Nick Cage bought one of my originals. And so I was on top of the world. It was just the funnest job on the whole planet.
And then what happened? You sound like I was on top of the world, and then it all crashed and burned.
No, it got better. And it got better. No, it sounds like just the films went down, and that section of the painting went down.
But you still had like the Fab Five, the classic characters, right?
And I had the Haunted Mansion, and like I said, those other things going on. But then I got a call on my 40th birthday from Tony Garrison and Martha Blanding's department down at Disneyland, the merchandisers who had been doing all these merchandise events with me. And Tony says, Eric, can you paint 100 Mickey Mouses in a year? And I said, is this a birthday joke? And he goes, it's Walt's 100th birthday next year. I've got a great idea that you paint 100 Mickey Mouses. We do merchandise, we do prints, we sell the originals, we take over the entire gallery. It's a one-man show. And I said, holy shit, yeah, I'll do that. I don't know if I can make it, but I'll try to make it. I think I can do it. He says, you got to say yes, not maybe. Whew. I said, yeah, I'll do it. I'll paint 100 paintings in 11 and a half months. And he says, okay. I said, is there any payment to buy the paints and stuff before I start? He says, nope, it's all on you, but believe me, it'll be worth it in the end. So I went out and bought a load of paint, a new easel, a bunch of canvases and papers and all kinds of things, and just started digging in. And the next year of my life, that's what I did, was just paint 100 mice.
But you were still doing signing.
Well, I was still making a living being a theme park designer consultant for the industry, Predominantly at that point was Universal Studios, because they were doing Superhero Island and things like that.
Yeah.
I worked on the Hulk coaster, on Superhero, the Avenues of Spider-Man area, stuff like that. A lot of Disney Imagineers went over to Universal at that point.
Right.
They were all calling me up and saying, I worked on the Waterworld show at Universal with Tom Thordarson. We did that together with Christian Hope and Tom Thordarson. So, yeah, I had stuff to do to make a living. But here's the thing, guys.
And by the way, you were still living in Southern California, right?
I was, yeah. Still there. And I ran out of ideas after 30 Mickeys. I was like, shit, I've got 70 to go. And I'm at 30. And so then I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to use different media, every single different medium that the art world has created. I'm going to do it. So watercolor, charcoal, pastels, pencil, etching, oil, acrylic, finger painting, mud, mustard, anything. I was like, just going to like find anything. I even used a dinner fork for one of the paintings that you can see in your collection. It's dinner fork. It's not even a brush. So I got up to like 78 or so and still had a ways to go. And I finished all 100. The very last one was a digital painting, by the way. That's a trivia that nobody knows until today.
That's awesome.
You'll never be able to tell which one it is. I bet.
And so when you finally got these 100 paintings done, the poses are different in each one. They're just different angles on him. I went through a lot of them. Clearly it runs the gamut where you go, oh, I really love this one, and oh yeah, that's cool. You know,
some are not so great. Some are very good. And, you can tell, I mean, gosh, that's a lot of paintings for one single subject in a short period of time. So I admit to you, there's a couple of those you go, but you know what? That one's a fine art piece. That's an abstract piece. That one's a homemade cake. It's not going to look as polished. But you know what? Those all sold. They all sold out.
Yeah. What'd they do? What was the print run for each one?
Gosh.
1,000?
You know what was invented that year for the 100 Mickey show? That's when they invented that printing. What's the name of it? When they print it right there at the backstage. There's a name. It's when you go to a Disney store now, they'll print it for you backstage.
It's like a laser printer.
Yeah, but it's super high quality. It's
not a G Clay.
No, it's after that.
Is it ultraviolet transfer?
No, it's something on demand. Prints on demand.
Okay.
They invented that for 100 Mickeys. And so the 100 Mickeys actually created something technological as well, because they wanted people to pick that. I want that one. This is the size I want. And this is the material I want on canvas or paper. They print it for you backstage and have it in front.
I remember that because they would have the whole gallery there on a touchscreen, and then you'd go through, and then you would decide. And I remember seeing your art there because I think there was, I don't know if it was a replica or if it was an original because it was super expensive, but I remember seeing it because you had like different layers of canvas.
Yeah.
And then some of it was kind of like really rough on the edges, and it was just really cool. But I was like, man, I if I had the money, I'd totally get that. And, I was a struggling, musician at the time, but I was like, man, this is cool. You can just scroll through and select it and have it printed and shipped to your house.
Yeah, that was print on demand. Yeah, it was a big invention. It was a big revolutionary thing. And I remember that my printer was upset about it because it basically took away his business, right? Because he was going to print the lithographs, et cetera. But that organization invented it. Disney bought it. And you could even have it framed. I mean, you could get anything you want, just like that. So so to say they didn't really have runs per se, Dave, because it was print on demand. But in 30 days, all the originals sold, and some were 2 inches big, some were 12 feet, some were 15,000, some were 500. They were so smart the way they marketed it. The prices have something for everybody. The size was something for everybody.
Completely ran the gamut.
Totally. And I did it as well with my mediums, because after I ran out of ideas in every medium, then I looked at the gods of art, which is, Van Gogh and Picasso and de Kooning and Modigliani. And I said, okay, now I'm going to start doing stuff in that kind of style. So I was rapping for different styles and imagery and everything has to be different, Eric. There's no two that can be alike. So
would you ever do a project like that again?
That's a great question. My son asked me during COVID. He said, Dad, we're in lockdown for probably 2-3 years. Why don't you do another 100 Disney characters?
Or you could, 90 Donald Ducks, because it was Donald Duck's 90th anniversary.
Well, I did. After the 100 Mickeys, 3 years later was Donald's 50th birthday. I don't know what it was, but I did 50 Donalds for New York City. And for the Disney store next to Trump's, used to be there on Fifth Avenue.
On Fifth Avenue.
Yeah, and so I got that gig. I got the gig to do 50 Donald Ducks. They said, can you do it? This date, it's in the middle of February in New York. And, I'd never been to New York before, so I did that. That was another huge project, and those sold out right away. When I got to New York City, my first day there, walking down Fifth Avenue, across the street, because I wanted to get the long shot of the store. I'd never seen it before. And I look in the window, and the whole freaking window was my paintings. It was, I can't believe it. You guys, I had the luckiest career on the planet Earth.
Those are feel-good moments, my friend. They really are.
New York City. This is the Big Apple. Look at my shit in the window like that. And I was like, and my daughter was with me, and she goes, Dad, look at you. I was like, I just still don't believe it's me, even to this day. But so that was there, and that was an event upstairs, and the American Idol singers were there and all this junk. And Matthew J. Fox introduced me, and I met him. He wanted to buy a painting, and he didn't buy it.
Michael J. Fox.
Michael J. Fox, yeah.
Right.
That's what I met him back in the green room. He loved my artwork, and I don't know, man. I just lucky dude. So yeah. So to answer your question, yeah, I did it again with Donald.
So your fine art career really took off at that. I mean, took off because of the gallery shows and stuff like that. When did you sort of stop doing any kind of theme park consulting or freelancing?
I was always,
or have you?
I haven't ever stopped. I'm still doing it.
You still doing it?
Yeah, I'm still like an hour before this interview here. I was on the phone with the South of China working on something. So I'm still doing it. And I'm still working on theme park attraction designs. I'll say it this way, immersive entertainment, because it's not theme parks.
Right. Immersive entertainment. So that brings us up to present day. I mean, you're basically doing, you've got a vibrant fine art career. And now, is all of your art just Disney art, or are you starting to branch out and do art of other things outside of the berm, so to speak?
So absolutely, I branched out. I have a gallery here in Hawaii, in Waikiki, called Island Art Galleries, and for them, I paint whatever I want, but at the beginning, it was all waves and Diamond Head and things like that. Kind of these cliche, but in my kind of style.
Yeah,
I do, because I can't really paint anything else but what I feel.
Well, and that's what people want. They want your style.
Yeah, because there's a lot of real tight stuff here in town, and I just can't do that. It's just not my personality. It's not made that way. Everything's got to be kind of loose and splashy, colorful. So I'm doing really well with that. In fact, I keep selling these certain wave I do called Technicolor Wave. It's all colors. It's kind of hard to describe verbally. It sells, and I do another one. It sells, and I do another one. So I just keep on. And then all of a sudden, I started getting bored with Hawaii subjects. So I started painting tourists that weren't happy. I had to describe this. Like, I have this painting of a girl with a very sober face, and there's a crow on her head. And it's called, something like Stuck on a Family Vacation with, what's up? I mean, the idea was everybody's so pro vacation, happy. I wanted to show like the teenage daughter that really wasn't that happy to be it, and get you guys, it sold out in half an hour.
That's fantastic. That's so great.
So that was a series. Now I'm painting these unhappy girls with birds on their heads, and everyone's liking it. So I don't know what the hell that's all about.
That's great. So, Eric, are you still doing the Disney characters for the park galleries? And is it more than just Disneyland?
Okay, so I haven't done anything for the galleries, literally. My stuff now, you guys, is like if Imagineering has an anniversary, I'll do a painting.
Right.
I did the Shanghai 5th anniversary. I did the Tokyo Disneyland 30th anniversary. I did the Magic Kingdom 50th anniversary a few years ago. That was a huge montage. I gotta give you guys one of these lithographs. They're freaking, it came out really good. So I am now the anniversary guy for Disney stuff. Also, I do tribute paintings, and I support the Ryman Foundation with paintings. I do a lot of castles. And Imagineering calls me a couple times a year. Club 33 called me to do a painting for each of their Club 33s throughout Magic Kingdom. One in Animal Kingdom, there's one in Magic Kingdom, there's one in Epcot. So all those Club 33s has an original Eric Robison painting in it that all relate to that park. So I still get a lot of special assignments like that.
And as far as galleries, I want to step back for a second. When did you move to Honolulu? Because now you're permanently living in Honolulu.
Yeah, I've been here 18 years. Actually, this week, 18 years. It's kind of coincidental. And I still work for Disneyana Plus in Copenhagen, Denmark, that is a Disney licensed gallery there that sells my merchandise in Europe.
Now,
So
do you go there once a year to do a signing or an appearance?
For the first time, I was just feeding him work. He was just buying it from me. And then all of a sudden, my following got pretty big. And he said, come out to Bog Forum, which is the book forum of Copenhagen, once a year. And I spent a wonderful week with my wife last year, signing prints and books and all that jazz. I'm kind of pretty well dispersed throughout a couple different places.
I was going to say, so you have a number of galleries. Where's your main collecting base? Is it the U.S. or Europe? Or I mean, where do you?
You know what? It used to be U.S., but now Europe is gaining on it. So I would say it's still U.S. because the Disney fans here are incredibly loyal people to Disney. They just love, I mean, they live and breathe Disney, you know, God bless them. And so every time I do something, it sells out here. Over in Europe, the people are a little more cautious with their money. They really think about something before they buy it. So they'll go home and discuss it for a couple of weeks. So they'll manage it. They'll say, okay, we'd like to buy the $11,000 painting. But in New York City, I remember this guy walked up to me. He must have been a stockbroker. This guy was awesome. New York accent, the whole deal, you know. And he pulls out a Black American Express. He goes, I'll take that one and that one. How do I buy it? I was like, dude, wow. They were both like $20,000 paintings, right? One was like an 8-foot Goofy, and the other one was a Donald that was like 7 feet. He must have had a mansion. And I said, oh, wow. Yeah, I'm the artist, not the cashier. So, but you could go pay for it over there. They'll deliver it. He goes, it was just like that, like 5 seconds. So it doesn't happen in Europe, you know. So that American spirit, you know.
Yeah, really.
It's so fun to see them meet the people, because the people are the collectors and even the people that just discovered you. It's just fun to meet them.
So what's ahead? Because we're going to wrap this up. We're bumping up against time. What's ahead for you now?
Gosh, for me now, I'm working for Gensler Architects predominantly. I'm also still consulting for Disney. So those two are my bread and butter still. Oh, and also
and just so our listeners know, Gensler, and I did a big presentation at their Los Angeles office of my House of the Future book. They are one of the largest architectural firms in the world.
Yeah. And they really are. They're represented all over the planet.
Yeah, and they do like stadiums and museums, and I mean they do like big public spaces.
Yeah, so and I love working for them. They're really good people. It's not the same experience as a theme park proper. I love architects and love architecture, so I'm having a great time with them. I'm also working on films over here. I'm in the union here in Honolulu. I worked on Jason Momoa's Chief of War and some other smaller filmettes, but so I'm
and what are you doing? Like production design, paintings, and things like that?
Exactly, Dave. I do pre-production. Like the art director was in New Zealand, and he was calling me and says, "I'm going to shoot this part of New Zealand, and here's some shots. Can you render the Momoa and the tribe? Can you kind of do an illustration showing what that shot would look like at sunset?" And they're wearing this and they're doing that. So super fun. That should be coming out on Apple this year, you guys. So okay. Review that for me.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So I'm doing everything. I'm doing principal illustration for architects, fine art, and filmmaking. It's a pretty good life.
And where do you see yourself when you retire? I mean, when I say retire, are you going to downshift and just focus on your fine art painting and stop doing, the deadline stuff? Or what do you look to do?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'll probably never retire officially.
And by the way, Eric, I'm with you on that. I don't like to use the word retirement, but I haven't really found a good word. I keep saying the next chapter, but for me, it's not being beholden to deadlines or working on projects you're not really that interested in or things like that.
I'll tell you what my perfect life would be. I'm going to admit this right now. I actually do not enjoy being a gallery artist, a fine artist. I don't like it.
Really?
It's the least fun of all of the three branches of art that I do. I just don't. Now, I'm not talking about Disney galleries. I'm talking about fine art galleries. I don't enjoy it. I make pretty good money. People love the work, but I don't know. I don't like it when I don't want to sound like it. I don't like when people say, well, can you change your painting? I just bugs me.
Okay. So you don't like the aspect of somebody who might be selling one of your paintings, stepping in and saying, Eric, I'd like to sell this painting, but I'd like you to move the fire hydrant 3 inches over and put a person over here that looks like my girlfriend. You know what I mean?
That's a funny exaggeration, but that's kind of the feeling. It's like I had a guy. This is not even the gallery salespeople. They're fantastic. I'm talking about the people who want to buy. And I'm not going to say a specific case because if they hear this interview, they get abused. But I will say, like, somebody wanted me to change the color of a flower 4 times, and then I did it. And then we liked the first one after all in the first place. Fuck, man. You know, like I just don't like that. I don't like.
You know, Eric, you're such a nice guy. You just have to learn how to say, no, I'm not changing my painting. The painting is what it is.
That's what my wife and kids keep telling me. Eric, stop saying yes.
Well, they're giving you sage advice, my friend. Sage advice.
Anyway, I love working for Disney because they never asked for any. They said, Eric, just paint Donald Duck or paint this anniversary of the Matterhorn. I do it. They take it. It's up. It's all happy. There's nobody correcting me or trying to change me. So
yeah, that's awesome.
So to retire as a Disney artist would be my dream, just to do that only, nothing else.
Awesome. Well, Eric, I got to tell you, it has been nothing but an absolute joy to have you on the show finally. I know we were kind of going back and forth and trying to get it arranged, but it's so great to have you on this program and to have been able to just talk about your incredible, fantastic career so far.
Yeah, so far. You know, every Monday morning I listen to you in Honolulu. I go for like a 3.5 mile walk. And you guys make my week. I can't wait for Monday. Believe it or not, it's absolutely true. I love you guys. You're the best.
I appreciate that. And you know something, Eric, we get notes from people all over the world. It's crazy. I mean, you know, and Aljon and I, we're like, you know, we're 2 peas in a pod. We just love talking about, you know, movies and art and TV and, you know, all of this stuff that goes on in the entertainment world and everything Disney related.
But you guys have a quality to how you address things. Dave, your opinion is admirable. I just love your the way you have diplomacy, but you're also tough when it has to be tough. And I like what you say. And a lot of people are like, thank God this guy says it. We all want to say it, but he's doing it.
I know, you know something. I got to tell you all something funny. I do a lot of volunteering in my community and have done for many decades actually. And I occasionally will write a commentary in the local newspaper. And I wrote a commentary once and I called somebody out about something. And I had this guy come up to me who was a friend, and you know he's originally from Texas, so he has a little bit of a drawl, and he said. He goes, Dave, why did you say that? And I go, well, because it was true. And he goes, I know it was true, but why did you have to say it?
That's why your podcast is so great. You're not whitewashing anything. It's terrific.
Well, you know something. I think it's a disservice if you tell somebody, you know, a movie is okay to go see, and when it's not. Yeah, you know, right. And you know, sometimes tough love is a better thing, you know. Absolutely. I don't know. Anyway, I'm just so glad that you enjoy the show, and I'm so glad you were able to come on, and I look forward to continuing our friendship and talking to you more.
Absolutely. Let's do it again.
We will. We absolutely will. We always have guests back multiple times, as you well know from listening to the show, you know. I mean, I can't tell you how many times we had Don Hahn on the show.
Yeah.
You know, so we're probably overdue to have him back on the show. Anyway, Eric, thank you for being on the Skull Rock podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we wish you the best this holiday season.
Thank you. Aloha, everybody.
Aloha.
So save time, money, and aggravation by booking your next Disney trip, your next Universal trip, any cruise line under the sun. or even Adventures by Disney with this young lady here. Kristen, what is our Disney travel deal for this week?
Well, right now you can save up to 25% on rooms at select Disney Resort hotels. Of course, in early 2025, which really is just around the corner. You're going to blink and it's going to be here. You can save up to 20% on rooms for stays most Sunday to Thursday nights from January 1st to February 20th. And then you can save up to 25% on rooms for stays most nights from February 23rd to April 30th. So for the first third of the year, you've got a nice travel deal going on already.
I like it. Kristen, how can people take advantage of this deal? Where can they contact you for that free quote?
They can contact me at themeparksandcruises@gmail.com.
I feel like having a dance party now.
Skull Rock Podcast is made possible by donations from listeners like you. We want to thank the following supporters: Michael Corbett, Christine R. Banas, Gold Tier members Spencer Wright, Joshua Volkert, and Platinum Tier member Steve Muench. If you want to support this show, please click our link in the show notes. If you would like to advertise your event or business, please email aljon@skullrockpodcast.com. Thank you for listening and for your continued support of everything we do.
Hey, this is animator director Chris Bailey, and you're listening to the Skull Rock Podcast.
Your attention, please. Now loading on track number 1 for a trip around Walt Disney's Magic Kingdom.
Skull Rock Podcast.
All aboard.
Your Main Street to the world of Disney.
All right, another great and inspiring talk with our friend Eric Robison, Imagineer artist extraordinaire. Dave, man, it's like I could just sit here and listen to his enthusiasm all day long.
Absolutely. You know, he's such a wonderful human being and a humble artist who is immensely talented. I can't tell our listeners enough. Go to art.com and take a look at his paintings of the Fab Five characters, his architectural renderings. I mean, he's off the charts. I just absolutely love his paintings of Mickey and Donald and Goofy. I mean, he's really just got a beautiful style. In some sense, I don't say this lightly, and I don't like to compare artists, but you know, he's got such an energy in his paintings. It kind of gives me the same feeling when I look at Ralph Steadman's work.
Whoa, okay.
You know, and there's an exhibition of Ralph Steadman's work going on now at a couple of museums. I just read about it. I think it was in the Wall Street Journal. And you know something? I actually have a piece of Ralph Steadman's art signed by him and Hunter S. Thompson.
Wow. Okay.
You know, from Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, Dr. Gonzo. And I love that. You know, I look at it almost every day, and I feel very fortunate that I also have a bunch of Eric Robson art as well. You know, it's just, you know, when I look at it, it's so vibrant. It has so much energy to it. It really makes me happy to look at his work.
100%. I feel like there's a bunch of great artists that I love, and Eric is in that realm as well. He's very punk rock, and I love that. I love that energy, that feeling of just vibrance. It's just alive, and I love it.
You know, I loved watching the video of him painting to Green Day.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we should put a link to that in our show notes so our listeners can watch that, because it's just so exciting watching him and listening to the great Green Day, you know, band.
You know, it's great. I wonder if that's part of his process, listening to some great music, and maybe we'll find out in episode 3 that we have with Eric coming up next week, right before the holidays. But I love the fact that he's doing that, you know, and he's working with that Green Day punk rock bunny coffee that they're doing, just because I work with the guys from Green Day. I think they're wonderful guys, and I think it's great that Eric is working with them too. So it's just another way that the podcast and our art and pop culture and music is all blending together, Dave. It's a wonderful thing. Next time I talk to the guys from Green Day, I'll let them know, hey, by the way, Eric says hello, and they'll probably freak out. But it's amazing things. Hey, gang, thank you so much for listening to our show and being here till the very end. We appreciate it. Thank you. And if you believe that our show is awesome, Give us those 5-star reviews if you think we deserve it. We really appreciate it. Everywhere you listen, Apple, Spotify, you name it, leave us those 5-star reviews. Leave us those voicemail messages. It will certainly help us out as well. Follow us on all the social media. Dave is on it as well. Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, X, Blue Sky, what have you. Follow us and leave us those comments. DM us. We'd love to hear from you. Leave us a voicemail as well. The link is in our show notes. And check out our archive of 200 plus episodes hanging out there at skullrockpodcast.com. And once again, drop us an email, Dave or Aljon at skullrockpodcast.com. Feel free to follow my other podcast, Dining at Disney Podcast. 2 shows posted twice a week. We talk about food in the parks. It's a lot of fun. And follow me on Instagram, as I said, Aljon Go, for a lot more music and pop culture fun. Okay? Dave.
Well, as we inch closer to the end of the year, I'm going to keep talking about that we're going to be at the Animation Y'all Expo, February 1st to the 23rd in Nashville, Tennessee. And by the way, I'm going to mention this. I probably shouldn't. I wasn't going to, but I'm just going to tease it a little bit. Former president of Walt Disney Imagineering, Bob Weiss, is likely going to be there.
What?
I'll have confirmation after the holidays, but I just want people to get excited. He's going to come and do a book signing with me and you, Aljon, because we're also going to be there as Skull Rock Podcast. I'm going to be there signing some of my books, but we're also going to be there as the Skull Rock Podcast. So I'm excited about that. And I really want people to come to this event in the middle of the country. It is absolutely fantastic.
I can't wait.
I think the Bancroft brothers are putting together a great expo. I don't want to belabor it, but Aaron Blaze is going to be there.
Oh my gosh.
I think he's going to be showing his Snow Bear short there, and that's going to be a treat for everybody. So February 21st to the 23rd, start planning it. You can also hear my Tunes Behind the Tunes show on Sirius XM Disney Hits, channel 133. This month, we're spotlighting Beauty and the Beast, Belle, for December. Now, Aljon, I'm going to tell you, the Old Mill Press website was hacked and has crashed, and it's going to be back up next week, bigger, better than ever.
Yes.
But you can still get a copy of my newest book, Find Your Happy Place, the 8-step guide to boosting your creativity through a personal retreat. You can get that online at Amazon or Barnes & Noble. And by the way, it just won a gold medal at the Fire Book Awards.
Yeah.
Gold medal. I just found out about this weekend.
Congratulations, Dave.
So check out any of my books. They're available online. Also, you can go to davidbossert.com. There's lots of free content, and you can check out some of my books there, and there's links to those books on my website. So that's all I got. I would tell everybody, go out and have a fantastic week. It is holiday shopping season to full tilt right now. So just take your time. Be careful, be mindful, be respectful of other people, and have a great week. And we'll see you back here next Monday, right here on the Skull Rock Podcast.